We got Alaska's most terrifying UFO encounters. Hell yeah. Great way to start this shit off.
The final North American frontier, a land where on average an
Ow.
astonishing 41.74 people per 100,000 people go missing every year, a national record. In any other place, this figure would lead to mass panic and a demand for immediate government action. But for the frostbitten natives and the frontiersmen of Alaska, it's just the price this wild land demands from those who dare trespass. Recently, though, a dramatic upsurge in UFO activity has prompted many to question, why do so many people disappear here? And could it be related to the UAP phenomenon? Seward, Alaska is a major
Wolves.
hub for fishing and the offshore oil
What's
industry.
good, Kai?
It's a small town of around
What's good,
2,600
bro?
people,
Welcome.
with an additional 2,600 living near the town in the Alaska wilds. Despite its very small size, it's a very important port for bringing in supplies and for shuttling out those supplies and personnel to offshore oil rigs in the Gulf of Alaska. People there are used to helicopters and other small and large aircraft flying over
What the fuck, bro? This damn ad caught me
Creating
off
a new
guard.
campaign
No!
their town, which makes what happened one night in the early 1990s all the more difficult to explain. Residents of Seward were drawn outside by the sound of a helicopter overhead, not an unusual event for the small town, but made more curious by the fact that this helicopter seemed to be hovering just outside of the town. The aircraft was soon identified as a U.S. military Black Hawk helicopter, hovering stationary and observing an object to the west of the town. The object itself was hard to miss.
Why that symbol?
Described as approximately 600 feet across, a massive
Interesting.
silver-gray disc hovering just a few hundred feet above the
600 feet across.
small town, but made more curious by the fact that this helicopter seemed to be hovering just outside of the town. The aircraft was soon identified as a U.S. military Black Hawk helicopter, hovering stationary and observing an object to the west of the town. The object itself was hard to miss, described as approximately 600 feet across.
See, that's insane to me because, like, I mean, I'm not sure how confirmed this is, but I've heard before that. Like there was one sighting of a UFO, I think, like over the ocean or some shit, like near, like the California area or something like that. And apparently, like they measured it out to be like the size of a football field. So that shit is insane to me. Yeah, these stories have to come from people high as fuck. Oh, God. But nah, I mean, shout out these stories. 'Cause I like these stories. I like this shit because it's like I like alien shit.
A massive silver-gray disc hovering just a few hundred feet above a nearby forest. The skin of the craft appeared to be metallic, grayish and silverish, which at times made it difficult to spot against the overcast sky. On the underside of the craft protruded what was described as a crystal-like object, which itself
Nah,
seemed
it's
to emit red, blue,
Bro, what?
protruded what was described as a crystal-like object, which itself seemed to emit red, blue, and white streaks of light. The object hovered in place for over an hour before disappearing, prompting hundreds of callers to phone into their local radio station, KSRM Radio 92. But the object that had hovered stationary and directly been observed for over an hour appeared to have not been alone, with some callers reporting having spotted strange and anomalously moving lights over the Cook Inlet, their light reflecting off the water.
Bro, I'm just waiting for the day. I'm just waiting for the day where like we have like undeniable fucking evidence and they can't hide it no more. You know what I mean? I mean, everyone pretty much believes aliens exist, but we haven't seen one. You know what I mean? And like especially like we need like some clear ass UFO UAP footage, like to be declassified or unclassified because we definitely got some clear UFO UAP footage and shit. It's just classified shit. We definitely do. There's no fucking way we don't.
Indicating very low flight elevation, Other callers reported lights moving in odd patterns and flying directly over the forest, with one witness stating that they saw a group of lights whiz by directly over their head. Callers were insistent that what they had seen was not the typical helicopters that anyone growing up in the area would be accustomed to, and the military did not reply to requests for comment. For this script, we reached out to our own former challenge guy who spent many years in Alaska, from sleeping in the ice caves, traveling north of the Arctic Circle, and facing down wild moose. He's seen much of what the state offers, and he gave us this comment. There's a lot of strange up there, stranger than people in the lower 48 may be comfortable with, but people who know. After refusing to elaborate further, we turned our attention to Alaska's UFO.
I heard about Brandy first when I was in 7th grade.
The reason why I liked it, because everyone
history. Turns out the last frontier was home to UFO sightings even before the Kenneth Arnold sighting of 1947 kicked off the UFO phenomenon in public discourse.
6 football fields is a little unbelievable. Who said 6 football fields? If you're talking about what I said earlier, it was it was like the size of a football field. Like that's what they said. Like the sighting like over by like the California area, some shit over the ocean.
Tales of strange lights in the skies, performing incredible maneuvers, or even visitors from other worlds can be found in the native lore, and some of it shockingly similar to modern-day accounts of UFOs and the abduction phenomenon. Jonathan Young, an academic and a curator at the Joseph Campbell Archives, had studied Native Alaskan lore, which contains tantalizing possible evidence.
Bro's nose is like Darth Vader, and then the other bro's is like a middle finger.
Had studied Native Alaskan lore, which contains tantalizing possible evidence of alien visitation. Some Alaskan tribes, according to him, tell tales of their ancestors having met and interacted with individuals they called star people.
It wouldn't fucking surprise me. I was reading something about UFO. Oh, okay. Got you. Yeah, bro, it wouldn't surprise me if if there has been humans that like met fucking aliens or some shit. Cause like you can't survey 100% of the Earth. No way. Like, no way.
Other stars in the night sky.
Or then maybe with the AI or some shit, but like with our technology right now, no.
Native tales hard evidence though, given other fantastical elements in much of the lore. Though the frequent occurrence of events and things in native stories that so closely resemble the UAP phenomenon today is hard to discount. One disturbing story from Alaskan natives is that of the little people who, like the gray aliens of legend today, have a penchant for abduction. Many Alaskans, though, consider the little people to be mischievous or at least aloof, with an affinity for either playing tricks on people that are mostly harmless or fleeing on sight. However, in the village of
y'all know what that shit reminds me of? Have you seen that the AI shit where it's like it's damn, my bad. It's like an Instagram account. And like it's like AI videos of like folktale shit or like fake shit that they make up. One of them's like a little thing in Alaska. Like, damn. Hold on, I'm trying. One of them's like the little people. You like that.
Shaktoolik, the little people are discussed in abject fear, a sentiment not shared by the
If y'all know what I'm talking about.
communities around them. The villagers there all unanimously believe that the little people are dangerous, evil entities that abduct people, and sometimes those who get abducted never return. These villagers are hesitant to tell their stories, with 2 exceptions. One involves a couple of native hunters who were out.
Why the fuck do you live in Alaska? Like, do you not have enough money to move to the States or job opportunities? What the fuck is in Alaska that like you don't want to offer yourself for work? It's so fucking cold. You know what I mean, bro? Dying the pendulum, bro.
Caribou. The men rode out into the bush on their 4-wheelers, but eventually left the machines behind so as to not spook their prey. Tracking a local herd, the duo took cover behind rocks on one end of the valley, with the caribou grazing peacefully below, and prepared for their final approach and kill. However, looking through binoculars, one of the hunters spotted 3 other hunters on the far end of the valley, away from the herd. It was clear that they had brought down a truly massive caribou, and they were in the process of cleaning it. Looking through his high-powered rifle scope, the man's partner spotted the truth. The animal wasn't as giant as they had first believed. Rather, it was a normal-sized caribou, and it was the men who were small. The trio had large heads and short, stocky bodies, covering themselves in clothing made of animal hides. This was at a time that all of the natives in the area had long ago taken to wearing modern outdoor gear available from outlet stores. As they watched the trio work on the animal, suddenly one of the dwarf-sized hunters stopped and looked up. He shot his hand up into the air, with his index finger pointing straight up at the sky. His companions stopped what they were doing and looked at him, then watched as he dropped his arm parallel to the ground.
Hold on. Let me show you this real quick, y'all. This is what I'm talking about.
We're the reason you should not come to Alaska. Hello, my name is Urban. I am one
Like
of
this
the
shit.
Cashapp people. We live deep in the mountains of Yupik territory, in deep underground caves and lairs. We spend our days
It's so midget tribe.
we are interrupted.
Oh shit. That's funny.
When any hunters come through and disturb these lands,
Asking pages to you to stay there too, but everything's more expensive. Like, I mean, they why else? I mean, what else would they do? Probably, I guess they'd probably pay you, like you said, if they do. If that is true. Excuse me. Like everything's imported. Like everything's more expensive because it's imported.
we will lure you off the pathway with strange sounds until they are completely lost. Then we will appear and offer you help, and if you accept, it will be the biggest
See, doesn't this shit look quite similar?
mistake you ever make. We will take you deeper into the bush. And
Honestly, this is probably this AI thing, like this AI like short thing right here, is probably based off of like some folklore like this shit or whatever.
laugh at you and leave you to the wild wolves.
The perros.
Turn you to Mother Nature. So if you're ever in Yupik territory, be respectful and do not disturb our lands. And always remember,
These fuckers.
Now pointing straight at the two native men observing them. In an instant, they all vanished, all three of the little people, along with the caribou that they'd been cleaning, leaving behind only tracks and blood on the snow. But the child outsized
Fortnite
tracks
ad.
did not lead to or from the spot. What's peculiar about this story is similar accounts have popped up from around the world, featuring the same diminutive humanoids with the ability to seemingly disappear being frequently spotted. However, some have speculated that these individuals are not in
Fortnite
fact
yet?
disappearing,
No.
merely having a psychological effect on the witnesses
No yet.
similar to that reported by many UFO witnesses. In essence, they're only making it seem as if they are disappearing in the observer's mind. Many UAP witnesses have recounted strange events, such as missing time, or describing an object in one way only to look at a photo or video that they took of the
I have no fucking doubt that someone has been like experimented on. But even if they haven't been experimented on, I'm sure for fucking reasons or some shit. But there is like abduction stories and everything. Like, and the thing is, just some abduction stories and shit that happen in the day. But the majority of them, I think, is at night. But like, there is shit that happens in the day. It's quite fucking interesting. I don't know. Cause like, I wanna fucking, bro, I wanna be like in an airplane, like on the way to like another state or some shit or whatever, and like just look at the window and just see something go, and like and just see something like, what the fuck, you know what I mean? Is that UFO shit? You know what I mean? Like, oh,
object
that'd be dope.
and be perplexed as it appears in a completely different way in their media. Whether on purpose or perhaps as a side effect of the phenomenon itself, the ability to affect a witness psychologically seems to be both a part of Alaska's little people and the UAP phenomenon. After the Kenneth Arnold sighting in 1947 broke the dam on flying saucer reporting, individuals across Alaska came forward with
An
their
abduction during the day is devious, yeah, but there is, from my understanding, there has been like reports of abductions during the day, even though like most of them I think occur at night, but it's crazy. Like, I don't know what the fuck. Like, imagine experiencing that shit, and then like you come back from it, you try to tell somebody, and they just look at you like you done, like you're off like a fucking, like fucking 5 things of LSD or some shit, or like you just did the best heroin or fentanyl, or don't do fucking drugs, kids.
own encounters. The UFO wave of the early 1950s that swept the nation had reached Alaska as well, with silvery objects reported hovering over the Alaskan wilderness or on the edge of civilization. In January of 1950, a retired fisherman from Sitka reported a flying saucer outside his cabin at Jamestown Bay, stating that he'd been hesitant to report his sighting for fear that people would think he was crazy. Later that same year, in October, for a week there were 7 different sightings of a UFO over Sitka.
That's
and
crazy.
in the next month, a brilliant blue-white object.
What's crazy to me is when there's people with masks, like, is when there's like situations where it has, what I mean to say is where there's been situations where mass amounts of people have reported similar things in a similar area. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, okay, well, what the fuck? Like, okay, it's not just one person calling this shit, it's like 100, and it's like, okay, are all 100 people crazy? It's like, I don't know.
Raced across the sky and was sighted from Fairbanks to Kodiak, a distance of almost 800 miles. Skeptics believe that this object was nothing more than a meteor, and with no photographic evidence, they may be right. But the sightings didn't stop coming, and in 1952, 2 men reported a light, quote, bouncing up and down in the sky over Anchorage. A year later,
Maybe
3 women
lightning?
watched a saucer-shaped object pass over the town of Ekalutna 20 miles away.
It's probably not
According to the
lightning.
women, the UFO seemed to pass over the town almost as if searching for something before racing away into the distance. It's easy to discount these sightings as they come from decades ago and from witnesses who are now long dead. However, it becomes
That's
harder to
great.
do so when those same sightings continue being reported years later and by credible witnesses. In March of 1987, the Alaskan National Guard was forced to address an event that led to 4 different guardsmen across western Alaska, all reporting a brightly lit UFO flying across the sky. Occurring between 11:50 p.m. and midnight, the object was spotted by 17 additional civilians from villages.
What's with the 4, like, what's with that? The 4, like, lights thing? Is that what the depiction was?
Object was spotted by 17 additional civilians from villages near the National Guard locations. The skeptics at first discounted the sighting as a satellite falling out of orbit, but upon being contacted, Captain Brian Holt of the U.S. Air Force and Public Affairs Officer at NORAD confirmed there had been no satellites re-entering the atmosphere on that night. The skeptics claimed that the object was likely an E-3 airborne warning and control aircraft.
I need to find the best way to learn math and science. It's
Go to
brilliant.
school.
Which they explained would have appeared odd due to the large radar dish on top of the aircraft. However, once more, the U.S. Air Force confirmed that no AWACS were in flight anywhere near the area where the object was spotted. The object was then discounted as nothing more than a meteor, which directly contradicted eyewitness statements, though contradicting eyewitnesses has certainly never stopped unhealthy skepticism. One
Bro,
witness from
don't
the
you
town-
love when your UFO, like, sighting just gets, like, passed off as a meteor? Like, don't you
Savunga
love that
stated
shit,
that
bro?
the object seemed to be as large or larger than an airliner as it passed by overhead. The object was also...
An airline?
Witness from the town of Savunga stated that the object seemed to be as large or larger than an airliner as it passed by overhead. The object was also described as having 1 red and 1 white light, with another witness in the town of Gamble agreeing that it appeared to be larger than an airliner. However, this witness said that it was difficult to see the body of the object as it appeared to have a bright cloud of smoke underneath it, which could have been heavy cloud cover. In Tanunuk, witnesses said the sky was clear, and yet the object appeared to be surrounded in a smoke of some sort,
The fucking
with a bright white
airbending.
light coming out of the smoke. Witnesses in Elm
The
had the
aliens are
best view of the
airbending.
object, with 9 different witnesses all observing it as it passed overhead. They agreed with the other reports of some sort of
1000%.
smoke or cloud around the object, and described it as a, quote, bright aqua blue-green colored oval-shaped object, approximately the size of 2 football fields, with 3 lights on the side. The object appeared to trail part of the smoke or the cloud that surrounded it as it passed by, despite the weather being clear. Given the incredible speed of meteorites or space debris entering the atmosphere, even without NORAD confirming that no debris or satellites had re-entered the atmosphere on the night in question, it is incredulous to think that 24 people across hundreds of miles would all mistake an object moving slow enough for them to observe it.
That's what I'm saying. Like, that shit's insane. Like events like this where mass amounts of people have said similar shit about the same event makes you question shit.
Well as a speeding meteor moving at re-entry speeds. But just a few months prior to this incident, one of the best recorded UFO events in history played out in the skies over Alaska, with hard evidence to prove it. On November 17, 1986, Japan Airlines cargo flight 1628 was en route to Tokyo, stopping at Anchorage first for refueling. The aircraft was piloted by Captain Kenju Terayuchi, an ex-fighter pilot with over 10,000 flight hours under his belt. At 5:09 p.m., his life would change forever, and not for the better. About 104 miles northeast of Fort Yukon, Anchorage Air Route Traffic Control Center contacted the aircraft and asked them to adjust their heading to pass south of Fort Yukon in Fairbanks. As the co-pilot banked the plane into a turn, Captain Terayuchi looked out of his side window and spotted strange lights left and below the aircraft. At first, he believed they were simply military aircraft from the nearby military base. Alaska at the time was on the front lines of the Cold War against the Soviet Union. And American fighters constantly patrolled the shared U.S.-Soviet border to guard against intrusion. However, Terayuchi soon realized that those lights seemed to be shadowing his aircraft, matching his velocity perfectly. Contacting Anchorage Center, he asked if there was any other traffic in his vicinity, to which the traffic controller replied with a negative. No civilian nor military traffic anywhere near his aircraft. Ground radar also detected no other aircraft but Flight 1628. At this point, the two lights began to move erratically. They kept their distance from the aircraft enough that the flight crew felt they were not in any danger. However, suddenly two objects Terayuchi would describe as, quote, spaceships appeared directly in front of the aircraft, shining lights directly into the cockpit of the aircraft. The crew reported feeling the warmth from the light on their face, which they interpreted as some sort of thruster or engine. A few seconds later, though, the fire-like light dimmed abruptly, and in its place was a small circle of lights that had begun to fly level with the aircraft. Terayuchi interpreted these lights as belonging to one craft, which he described as...
Imagine if they just, like, had an iPhone, and they just pulled that shit out, and it's just, like, clear as day.
A square-shaped object that occasionally sparked a stream of reddish lights. He estimated it to be anywhere from 500 to 1,000 feet in front of the aircraft, slightly above them, about the size of a jet airliner. The lights then flew away, though they appeared on the aircraft's...
Ladies and gentlemen, please stay tuned as we attempt to commune with the devil.
No.
Radar as a large round object approximately 8 miles from the aircraft. The lights, now pale and white, moved behind them as the airliner arrived in the clear sky over Ellison Air Force Base in Fairbanks. The lights from below allowed them to spot the silhouette of what Terayuchi described as a, quote, gigantic spaceship. The object was larger than an aircraft carrier and round-shaped. Later, skeptics would claim the crew had simply seen the planet Jupiter, which is an astounding conclusion given the massive size described by the crew. The crew is now concerned over the craft.
What? What? You said it's Jupiter?
Craft's intentions, terrified by the massive object.
Hey man, I think it's the size of an airliner. That shit's fucking Jupiter.
Behind them, they contacted Anchorage to request a series of evasive maneuvers. However, despite changing altitude and banking into a steep turn, the object doggedly followed the aircraft, perfectly matching its maneuvers. A United Airlines flight was asked to approach Flight 1628 in order to verify the object. But according to Terayuchi, once the UA flight was in visual range, the UFO abruptly disappeared.
Because, bro, if it's smart enough to do that shit, it probably knows what the fuck you're saying. It probably can hear the damn, the shit. You know what I mean? It can probably hear your conversation on the frequency thing. Well, y'all get what I'm saying. It could probably hear it, like hear you saying that shit to the people.
Incident quickly made headlines, but would have remained another anecdotal account.
Like, oh, they're trying to do this shit, I'm gonna just disappear at the last second.
At the time, Callahan was an FAA division chief of the Accidents and Investigations branch in Washington, D.C. Remember this next time a skeptic tells you a witness or whistleblower is not credible enough. A week after the incident, Callahan was contacted by the Alaska FAA office, which at the time was inundated with media requests for information regarding the event. Callahan was quickly briefed on the 30-minute chase by the UFO and ordered that all of the radar and radio tapes be sent to his location for review. The military, however, refused to hand over its radar tapes, a problem for the investigation as they had the superior radar system. Callahan ordered his technicians to splice together the radar and audio tapes so they could listen to the event and watch the radar in real time. While the military had not made its own radar tapes available, they had the recording of the military radar operators' transmissions, which clearly revealed that they had, in fact, tracked the object on their own radar. According to the operator's commentary, the objects appeared to move at thousands of miles per hour as they maneuvered into positions around the Japanese airliner. However, the tape held one further surprise that, until then, nobody involved in the incident had been aware of. As the United Airlines flight approached Flight 1628, the military had tracked the disappearing UFO as it moved directly behind the UA flight and then proceeded to follow it without their knowledge. Callahan was ordered by his superior to not discuss the event until given the okay to do so. The next day, Callahan was brought into a briefing along with all the other senior technicians, and they moved boxes full of data into a conference room in the upstairs of the FAA building. There, they were met by a small team from the FBI, another from the CIA, and a third from President Ronald Reagan's scientific study team. According to Callahan, everyone assembled was extremely excited about the event and requested an in-depth briefing. After the meeting, Callahan and his technicians were sworn to secrecy by one of the men from the CIA. Callahan objected, asking why, if this was clearly not the new stealth bomber the Air Force would soon reveal to the public, would they just be withholding information on a UFO sighting from the public by
We've always been doing that.
swearing never to talk about it? The CIA official remarked that there was a risk that news of a major UFO event, with so much supporting evidence, might cause panic amongst the American people, especially during a time of extreme tensions with the Soviet Union. According to Callahan, President Reagan's scientific study team was extremely excited about the event, with one of them remarking that this was the first time a UFO had been tracked by radar for a significant length of time. All of the data collected by the FAA was then seized, though Callahan would retain copies of some of it in his own office and be able to make it public at a later date, including a video recording of the spliced-together audio and radar tapes. Captain Teriyuchi would report a second UFO encounter a few months later, though agreed that he had likely simply witnessed a meteor or a trick played by village lights passing through ice crystals. However, Japan Airlines grounded him for, quote, embarrassing the company, reinstating him a few years later.
See, that's just fucked.
He would no longer talk publicly about the event after that. The Japanese Airlines case would be the best documented UFO event in history, complete with evidence that the military had indeed tracked an unidentified object, pulling off incredible maneuvers. Despite this, though, skeptics would resort to character attacks against Teriyuchi and Callahan, while providing no rebuttal to the documented evidence, other than somehow, against all odds, all involved had misidentified Jupiter and some clouds for a massive, rapidly maneuvering UFO.
Yeah, man. Jupiter.
And if that's the case, then America's air defense network is in very serious trouble. Now go check out one of the earliest and best documented cases of a UFO, with UFO chased a US military plane, or click this other video instead.
I'd say,
I
shit, okay. I'd say, grounding him is wild. Yes, it is indeed. Alright, y'all. I gotta go do my laundry or finish my laundry real quick. I'll be AFK. But the video, thank y'all so much for watching. I sincerely do appreciate it. We stream weekly on both YouTube and Kick at the exact same time, which is what we're doing right now. Actually, at this current moment, I'm streaming on both YouTube and Kick at the exact same time. But with that being said, man, yeah, thank y'all for watching. Come check out the stream, and we're gonna go to the next video after I get back from doing my fucking or finishing my laundry and shit. So, I'll be back, chat. Yes, sir.